All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. And actually, it's more of an NFL video today as we talk about the 10 NFL teams whose seasons could absolutely blow up in their face because of their quarterback situation. We'll talk about those 10 teams and more coming up next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. My good friend Anthony Catania's at 831-521-5264, and they're a great follow on IG, on the gram at Sharp Corners 831 on the gram. And we're also brought to you by our good friends at Claw Daddy Arcades. More from them in just a minute from our good friends at Claw Daddy Arcades. But first, let's talk a little bit about the upcoming NFL season. And there are 10 teams that I think the quarterback situation on these teams could potentially blow up their entire season. And I'm not just projecting a bunch of injuries either. There's one or two injury factors here, but it's more just because of how things shake out and where these teams are. So let's get right into it. The 10 teams whose seasons that could potentially blow up this year in 2025 due to their quarterback room and their quarterback situation. Let's start with the New York Football Giants. Definitely, Brian Daboll, enters this year, and Joe Shane on the hot seat. They're very much on the hot seat in New York. And they brought in Russell Wilson. They have Jameis Winston as the backup quarterback. They traded up in the first round for Jackson Dart. And they also have Tommy DeVito. So that's their quarterback room. And there's a lot of pressure to win. But you know what? Russell Wilson played okay with Pittsburgh. He didn't play great. And Jameis Winston's all right, but he's never proven to be great. And really, the New York Giants would like to get as much momentum going with their future, which is Jackson Dart to Malik Neighbors. And so if Dart plays well early, or if Wilson struggles early, or Wilson gets hurt and Winston struggles early, I have a feeling that you're going to see Joe Shane and Brian Daboll wanting to go to Jackson Dart. They want to get on. They want to show everybody that the future's bright with Jackson Dart at quarterback, throwing touchdown passes to Malik Neighbors. Does Daboll and Shane keep their job if Russell Wilson plays decently and they go 8-9 or 9-8? Maybe, maybe not. Their best chance of keeping their job is if their hand-picked quarterback proves to be the quarterback of the future. They're not going to fire Brian Daboll and Joe Shane if they just drafted the quarterback of the future and they've drafted their offensive star of the present in Malik Neighbors. So they're badly hoping that Dart shows something real early. And if he does show something early, and especially if Wilson at all struggles in September, there's going to be tremendous pressure on Shane and Daboll to get Dart on the field. Because Dart establishing himself is probably the best way that Joe Shane and Brian Daboll come back to New York for 2026. If Dart shows he's a franchise quarterback, those guys are probably set. If Dart plays early and plays poorly, that won't help them. But if Wilson plays and plays okay, they win 9 games, I don't know that their job is saved. I think they really need to show that Jackson Dart is the answer before Shane and Daboll are going to be allowed to come back for 2026. Just a guess, but the New York Giants quarterback room their quarterback dilemma could blow up in their face. There's a lot of moving parts there. You got a very aggressive big media throng. You got a very verbal fan base. You got a very passionate fan base that have won championships in the past. And you have a quarterback that they don't really have anything invested in. They got a number 2 quarterback they have even less invested in, and they are totally all in on Jackson Dart. And that's why they traded up in the first round ahead of the Rams and gave up what they gave up so they could get Jackson Dart. So he would be the solution to their problem. And if he shows anything early, he's going to be in there, and I think it could potentially blow up their year going with Jackson Dart. So that's the first team. Number 2 on the list. And a lot of people might disagree with this one because there's a lot of people that are looking at Caleb Williams as one of the great young quarterbacks to come into the NFL. And with Ben Johnson leaving Detroit to go to Chicago and all the weapons they've drafted for him, from Rome Odunze to the tight end they just drafted from Michigan, Colston Loveland. They've loaded up. They have absolutely loaded up. So why do I have Caleb Williams and the Bears on this list? Well, first of all, Caleb Williams doesn't know how to play football. He took 68 sacks last year. 68 sacks. Amazingly, he didn't get hurt, but 68 sacks. He's got a very young receiving core. Rookie tight end, Luther Burden, rookie wide receiver, Roma Dunze, second-year receiver. They have a very young group of receivers. They have a brand-new center and a brand-new guard at left guard and a brand-new guard at right guard. So they got a totally new interior offensive line. You got a quarterback that holds the ball way too long. You got a really young receiving core. And then you also have Tyson Bagent and Austin Reed, young players sitting behind Caleb. And you have Case Keenum as the veteran backup. So I like Bagent. I like Austin Reed. I think those guys can play. And I think the chances that Caleb is going to continue to hold the ball too long and that it's going to bog down and they're going to struggle with this young group of receivers and a brand new offensive line in front of Caleb, to me, that sounds like an injury waiting to happen. And then once you see Tyson Bagent and once you see Austin Reed, and they're also young quarterbacks, but they come in and play good football and the Bears win a few games, now you have the makings of a blown-up season. You've got everything invested in Caleb, but he's getting outplayed by Reed and Bagent. He's operating behind a really young line with some really young receivers with lots of new faces, and he holds the ball all day. So Chicago, I think there are a lot of people going, oh, Ben Johnson's going to Chicago. Caleb Williams is going to be the next Mahomes. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a huge tire fire. Third team on the list whose season can potentially blow up because of their quarterback room, the Minnesota Vikings. They had Sam Darnold, and he had a really good year, but then they got rid of him, and they went with J.J. McCarthy. Sam Howell is the backup. Max Brosmer was the draft pick out of the University of Minnesota, so he's going to be like a fan favorite. And I think McCarthy, I think there's reason to believe that McCarthy's going to struggle. He has some really good receivers, there's no question about it, but I kind of think J.J. McCarthy's going to have some bumps along the road. And Sam Howell is a good backup. The fans may be calling for Brosmer. McCarthy doesn't have tons of experience. He just doesn't. And he's kind of thin, and you got a real NFL quarterback next to him in Sam Howell. I think potentially that blows up. McCarthy, I think, is going to have some of those bumps in the road that he didn't have to go through as a rookie because he was hurt and it was Sam Darnold's show. And now he's just supposed to step in for Sam Darnold, who won double digits and had a fantastic year. It's a tall ask for a rookie quarterback, technically a second-year quarterback, but essentially it's his rookie year. So Minnesota's season potentially could blow up because of the quarterback room. Let's get to number 4 on the list. Seattle. Sam Darnold was brought from Minnesota to Seattle to be the savior, taking over for Geno. Drew Lock's his backup. Jalen Milroe was drafted as well, and he's sitting right there. My issue with this one is Seattle's got a bad offensive line. They just, they made some changes at receiver. DK Metcalf is gone. And here's Sam Darnold, who had 68 NFL interceptions in 83 NFL games. This is after he threw 22 interceptions in 27 college games. That's what this guy does. He throws a lot of picks. And I just think Sam Darnold behind, now you take Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison away. He doesn't have those receivers. He's operating behind a line that is not one of the NFL's better lines. He's not that mobile. He throws a lot of interceptions. I'm not even convinced that he's much better than Drew Lock. And I just think by the end of the year, Darnold's going to turn the ball over. He's going to struggle, and they're going to go to Lock at times when there's an injury. But I think by the end of the year, it's going to be the Jalen Milroe show. I think 2025 is just going to be a transition year where Seattle goes from Darnold to Lock to Milroe. And Seattle's done this before. I mean, they were all in on Matt Flynn, and then they drafted Russell Wilson and had to get rid of Matt Flynn. I think the same thing's going to happen here. They signed Sam Darnold to be the guy, but Jalen Milroe was drafted. I think Milroe is going to show more upside. Darnold's going to continue doing what Darnold does, which is turn the ball over. And I think that's going to blow up in their face. I think Seattle's offensive line is not great. Darnold doesn't move well. You're taking away his great receivers. And now you've got Drew Lock, who might be better than him, backing him up. You got Jalen Milroe, who's clearly got a better mobility, better athlete. So he's there too. I think Seattle's season blows up, and I think Sam Darnold is a big part of that. I think he showed in the playoffs what he really was. And he's not great. He's not a great player, and he showed it in the playoffs. Okay, so there's a few of them right there. Okay, that's four. So you got New York Giants could blow up. Chicago could blow up. Minnesota could blow up. Seattle could blow up. Let's get to some of the other teams out there. Those are all NFC teams. There's a couple more NFC teams, by the way, and then we'll hit the 4 AFC teams. New Orleans. New Orleans has 4 quarterbacks, and they have no idea who the starting quarterback is going to be. Derek Carr retired. Tyler Shuck, the rookie, who's 25, has got the best stature and arm strength. But Spencer Rattler's got the most experience and probably winds up, beating him out. There's also Jake Hayner, who played extensively at Fresno State. There's Hunter Deckers. I don't think New Orleans is banking on a big year, but I think there's a very good chance that they go 3 games of Shuck, 4 games of Rattler, 3 games of Hayner. I think it may be a potpourri. I think you may see all of their quarterbacks take snaps throughout the year, and it's not a great group. I mean, Shuck is got huge arm, and he's a big guy with great stature, but he's been in college for 7 years, and he's very mechanical. Rattler can move around, but, that's really all he can do. Hayner was kind of clutch at Fresno State. He hasn't shown much in the NFL. So I think New Orleans' season could blow up because of the quarterback position. I'm going to give you one more, and this one is going to be somewhat controversial. That's Detroit. Detroit's season could absolutely blow up because of their quarterback room. Let me explain. Jared Goff is their quarterback, okay? They were awesome last year. They won 15 games. They went 15-2. They only lost 3 times all year, 2 in the regular season, 1 in the playoffs. In Detroit's 3 losses, Goff was sacked 5 combined times and threw 5 combined interceptions. Frank Ragnow, his all-pro center, one of the best centers in pro football, opted to retire. His new center is a rookie from Georgia. So now you're talking about an immobile quarterback who lost his offensive coordinator and his defensive coordinator and his starting center, and his new replacement starting center is a rookie. And their backup quarterbacks are Hendon Hooker and Kyle Allen. I think it's pretty likely that Detroit is involved in some tighter games this year because I don't think they're going to be as good on defense. I don't think they're going to be as good on offense. Losing Ben Johnson's going to hurt. Losing Ragnow's going to hurt. Losing Aaron Glenn's going to hurt. I think Detroit's going to be involved in some tighter games. I think Goff is going to have to do more. And he's operating behind a line where he's got a rookie center. And if he goes down, I don't think they have a backup quarterback they can win games with. Hendon Hooker's not winning games. Kyle Allen's certainly not winning games. So I think Detroit, who come into the season with Super Bowl aspirations and high expectations, but you got an immobile quarterback behind a rookie center with a brand new offensive coordinator, and you don't have much for backups at the 2 or 3 QB spot. And if you lose Jared Goff, even if you lost Jared Goff for a month, your season could be on life support. If they lose Jared Goff, they're probably the team that will try to trade for Kirk Cousins or some veteran along the way. But they are in a world of hurt because Goff's not mobile. Ragnow retiring means there'll be much more pressure in the A-gaps. Asking a rookie to protect the quarterback up the middle is a tall ask. And then if you looked at the games that they lost last year, the guy threw 5 picks and was sacked 5 times. So personally, I think Detroit is another place that could blow up. So that's 7 NFC teams that could blow up because of the quarterback. Detroit, New Orleans, Seattle, Minnesota, Chicago, and New York. New York Giants. All right, let's talk about the 4 AFC teams that potentially can blow up. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are headed towards a rude awakening. They won double digits last year, and they chased off Justin Fields and Russell Wilson so they could go after Aaron Rodgers. Except Aaron Rodgers is old and can't move. And you've got a young offensive line. Rodgers was sacked 40 times last year. He's got new receivers he's got to adjust to. Oh, and by the way, he skipped the offseason program. So now you got an old quarterback who was sacked 40 times, operating behind a very young offensive line with a total new cast of receivers on a team where they may not have TJ Watt. If you don't have TJ Watt, your defense is not as good. And if you don't have Aaron Rodgers starting, who are you starting? Mason Rudolph? I'm not a believer in Will Howard. I'm not a believer in Skylar Thompson. So I think this is Omar Khan just got a 3-year extension. Mike Tomlin might be on the hot seat at the end of this year, especially if he called for Aaron Rodgers. But that's your plan. You're going to chase off Russell Wilson and Justin Fields for 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers and ask him to operate behind a really young offensive line in a year where you let Najee Harris walk away. You don't have Najee in the backfield anymore. You get a whole new crop of receivers. I don't know. Your backup is Mason Rudolph. I think Pittsburgh's season blows up. I think they look great in September. So great where people are like, Super Bowl. Rodgers may get a ring. And by November, it's going to be, oh, my God, the Steelers are bad. Oh, my God, Mike Tomlin's on the hot seat. Oh, my God, Mike Tomlin had his first losing season. The Steelers' schedule in the second half of the year is rough, very rough. Their whole season could easily blow up. And if Aaron Rodgers, for whatever reason, goes down, put a fork in them. They're not winning anything with Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, or Skylar Thompson. All right, let's look at the Jets. Another team. The entire city of New York could blow up football-wise because of the quarterbacks. Okay, so the Jets brought in Justin Fields. They said, you know what? The Jets obviously don't watch film. Because if they had, there's no way they would have brought in Justin Fields because Fields can't throw with any anticipation. He holds the ball forever. And if you don't believe me, look at his numbers. Justin Fields has played 50 NFL games. Justin Fields in those 50 NFL games has been sacked 151 times. This cat sacked 3 times a game on average for his entire career. So brand new set of receivers, young offensive line, young tackles, Jets team that doesn't have a whole lot. They just lost Robert Saleh. They probably won't be as good on the defensive side. They just lost their special teams coordinator. Probably not going to be as good on special teams. They got a good backup in Tyrod Taylor, But they also have some young quarterbacks in Adrian Martinez and Brady Cook who are not ready to win. So they're all in on Justin Fields. And when Justin Fields continues to hold the ball and take sack after sack and negative plays, and there's turnovers and negative plays and fumbles and you name it, the Jets are going to look up and go, what in the heck are we thinking? Another team, two more here, those seasons could implode based on the quarterback room. A lot of people say, we can't believe you didn't start with the Browns. Yeah, the Browns. Joe Flacco is the starter. Kenny Pickett is the number 2. But there's still Dylan Gabriel. There's still Shedeur Sanders. And by the way, just so you can't really assert leadership in this locker room, Deshaun Watson, who's their the leader of their team, their highest paid guy, the franchise face, is out. He's out hurt. So you got his ugly shadow looming over things and all of his stuff with the massage therapists and all that story. And then you've got old man Flacco, Kenny Pickett, who sucks, Shedeur Sanders, who, is better at driving 100 than playing football, and Dylan Gabriel, who, has been in college for like 10 years and has been at 5 different schools. And, he's a decent quarterback, but he's tiny, not really NFL size or stature. Talk about a season that could blow up. You're going to have people calling for Shedeur Sanders all summer long. Every day, Flacco looks good, or Pickett looks good, or Gabriel looks good, or Sanders looks good. There's going to be a whole new pecking order. There's going to be a whole new discussion. I mean, that is a toxic situation in Cleveland. With a quarterback, you got 4 quarterbacks, and none of them are really any good. And you're going to have to pick between those 4. So I think their season easily could go up in smoke. And then the last team whose season could go up in smoke is the Indianapolis Colts. A lot of pressure on the Colts and Chris Ballard. You can't use the Andrew Luck retired and caught us by surprise excuse for too long. They're looking at a depth chart at quarterback that includes Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, Riley Leonard, and Jason Beans, I believe his name is. Daniel Jones, in his NFL career, has 47 interceptions and has fumbled 15 times in 70 games. This guy's got 62 turnovers in 70 games. So he is a turnover machine. And then Anthony Richardson was a high first-round draft choice. He's proven at this point that he's a great athlete and not a great quarterback. Then you have Riley Leonard from Notre Dame, who I love, but I don't think he's necessarily ready to start. And then you have Jason Bean. And I would imagine if Mac Jones plays pretty well, but Tanner Mordecai beats him out, the 49ers may be calling the Colts about, the Colts may be calling the Niners about Mac Jones backing up Daniel Jones. We'll see how that shakes out. But Daniel Jones is a turnover machine. So he's not the answer, and he's probably going to be the reason that blows up in Indianapolis. And once again, Goff is operating behind a center that's a rookie. There is no real good backup there. New Orleans has 4 quarterbacks. Maybe none of them are all that good. Cleveland's got 4 quarterbacks. Probably say the same about them. Jets have Justin Fields. He takes tons of sacks. He's got a real backup in Tyrod Taylor and 2 young quarterbacks looming behind him in Cook and Martinez. So much was made of Rodgers going to Pittsburgh, but he was sacked 40 times. Got a young O-line. He's got new receivers. Sam Darnold, I really think, is a turnover machine. I think he'll show that this year without Jefferson and Addison. J.J. McCarthy is totally unproven. I think they'll be going to Sam Howell at some point. Caleb Williams has 68 sacks last year, has a very young receiving core, a completely new interior offensive line, and he holds the ball too long. And some of those young quarterbacks on that roster, Reed and Badgett, I think are better. And then Jackson Dart. I mean, there's so much pressure on the regime to keep their jobs that it's not even going to be about winning games. It's more going to be about keeping their jobs. So if Jackson Dart looks good, then Jackson Dart's going to play. And if Jackson Dart plays well, they're going to keep their jobs. So there's a lot of factors at play here. But there you go. The Giants, the Bears, the Vikings, the Seahawks, the Steelers, the Jets, the Browns, the Colts, the Saints, and the Lions, all 10 of those teams' seasons potentially could completely implode. Just simply because their quarterback situation is not good. We, of course, are brought to you by Claw Daddy Arcades. They're a great follow on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades to find a location near you. They've got a brand new location opening later this summer in Capitola Mall down in the South Bay, as well as Visalia Mall down in the Central Valley. So thanks to Claw Daddy Arcades, thanks to Pig in a Pickle, thanks to Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles, and thanks to all of you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.